Hi, I'm Violet, and this is Now and Then Stories. Each week I share the stories I write, tales of love, chance, and the quiet turns of life that sometimes change everything. This week's story is called What the Morning Brings. Ray Parrish woke before the birds and before the heat, in that crease of morning when the dark still clung to the pine tops and the air hadn't remembered how to be heavy. He lay there long enough to feel the old familiar catalog of aches, shoulders, knees, the low throb behind the right hip where a sheet of plywood had once turned traitor in a gust. None of it surprised him. He let the pains finish their introductions, then swung his legs out of bed and stood. Coffee first. He measured by memory, not by scoop, and listened to the small machine grumble itself awake. Outside, the first color was sliding into the eastern trees, a thin seam of copper along the horizon. He carried his mug to the porch and leaned on the rail, the wood cool under his forearms, the steam writing its brief story into the dawn. Somewhere down the road, a rooster realized he'd overslept and tried to fake confidence. Farther out, beyond the soybean fields, a log truck downshifted, and the sound rolled across the flat like thunder with manners. 62, Ray told himself, and still hungry. He sipped and scanned the yard, the small workshop out back sitting square on its slab, the stack of kiln-dried boards under a tarp, the new box of coated deck screws he'd left on the bench because he trusted dew more than thieves. The swing frame needed sanding, the cross pieces still had pencil marks. By sundown, if the weather didn't get ugly and if his hands cooperated, it would be a porch swing instead of a stack of intentions. The phone on the porch table lit up and buzzed. A text from Tyler. "You up?" ? Followed by a goofy cartoon man flexing a bicep the size of a hay bale. Ray smiled despite himself. He typed back. "Sun ain't up. I am. 7:30. Bring your patience." The reply came with 3 fire emojis and an agreement that sounded like a dare. He finished his coffee, put on his work cap, the faded one with the feed store logo from a business closed since '09, and went to the shop. He liked the sound the door made, the metallic click, the way the lights took a breath before waking. The place smelled like pine, hot dust, and old varnish. He ran a hand over the planer, the table saw, the drill press, touched each tool like a farmer patting a horse. The radio on the shelf still remembered the station he preferred. Low, local, somebody easing a steel guitar through a song that would never make it past county lines. On the bench lay his project and the morning's lesson, a swing built from slats he'd milled himself, armrests he'd shaped with a rasp until the curve felt right under the heel of his palm. He set out the speed square and a pencil, took a long look at the angle of the backrest, and made one small correction. Wood rewarded attention and it punished hurry. At 7:30 on the dot, a white sedan he could hear before he could see turned into the drive and stopped too close to the yard line. Tyler climbed out, all legs and enthusiasm, wearing a ball cap backward and a shirt that declared in large letters that he would in fact sleep when I'm successful. "Morning, Mr. Ray," he said, then added, "I brought the content." "The what now?" Tyler waved his phone. "Time-lapse. People love process videos. We'll get you 1 million views. Brand you up." Ray clicked his tongue. "Only thing I brand is cattle, and I quit that 40 years ago." Tyler laughed and followed him to the shop, ducking his head without needing to, like the door had an attitude. He took in the space with that bright, skittering attention of a 19-year-old, wall racks of hand planes, chisels sorted by width and shine, the tiny bins of hardware, the sweepings collected in a pile by the dustpan. "This is awesome," he said. "Feels like a museum, but alive." "Try workshop," Ray said, putting a pencil behind his ear. "Museums don't make sawdust." They started simple. Ray set the speed square against the board and showed Tyler how a real 90 looked and how a real 45 felt. "This is a promise," he said, tapping the square. "Keep it and your project treats you right. Lie and everything quits being friends." Tyler pinned his phone to a shelf bracket with a clamp and started the time-lapse. "Okay," he said, "teach me old school wisdom while the algorithm watches." Ray took the board, sighted down its edge, and turned it to catch the light. "First thing," he said, "your eye is smarter than your app. Learn to use it." "You got a measuring app?" Tyler asked, hopeful. "I got a tape," Ray said, and patience, cheapest tools I own. They measured twice, marked once, and then twice again for good measure. Ray allowed Tyler the first cut on the miter saw. Tyler flinched at the startup whine, then steadied. The blade bit true, and the shop filled with the clean, sweet scent of cut pine. He lifted the saw and looked down at the face like he'd perform a magic trick. Ray examined the edge. "You'll pass," he said. "Post-worthy?" Tyler asked, half joking. "Build-worthy," Ray said. "Posts can mind their own business." They set the back slats with quarter-inch gaps. Ray's fingers had learned the distance decades ago, and Tyler drove the first screws, his wrist awkward and then less so. When Tyler reached automatically for the drill to over-torque ahead, Ray put a hand firm on the tool. "Feel what the wood's telling you," he said. "Don't just make it obey." Tyler looked at him, then at the wood, then back. "I bet you don't talk to your TV," he said. "I don't own one," Ray answered. "You kidding?" "Got the radio, got a porch." Tyler grinned. "Retro, trending." Ray shook his head like he was shaking off a gnat. "Grab that sandpaper. Long strokes. Let the paper do the work, not your shoulders. You'll thank me when you're my age." They worked through the morning, the sun climbing, the shop slowly warming until the dust motes looked like a constellation around a bare bulb over the bench. They paused only for water and a few words that weren't instruction. How long the drive to Columbia was if you hit the wrong stretch of construction, which barbecue joint had lost its way, which one remembered the recipe, whether the summer would burn dry or surprise everyone with rain. At about 10 o'clock, Tyler started a new topic like flipping a switch. "So," he said, "if we set up a page for you, call it Parrish Me or something, people could DM for custom work. I could shoot short videos like, 'Here's how you restore a chair, part 1, and keep them under a minute. You could do live Q&As, old work, well, traditional, skills are hot right now." "Hot," Ray repeated, like he was tasting a spice he hadn't asked for. "I build what needs building. Folks who need it know how to find me." "Yeah, but some folks don't know they need it till they see it," Tyler said. He gestured with 2 fingers, circling the phone, the bench, the whole idea. "I'm not saying sell out. I'm saying let people in." Ray let the words hang between them like a board spanning sawhorses that might or might not hold its weight. He was not blind to time. He lived long enough to know the world remade itself every few years and left the unbending behind, but he also knew attention could ruin things as easily as neglect. Some work asked for quiet. "You can shoot your clips," he said finally. "But you film the work, not me. These hands are not an act." Tyler smiled, relief and excitement both. "Deal. We'll be anonymous famous." "That a thing?" Ray asked. "It is if I say it is." They laughed and went back to it. Before lunch, they dry-fitted the backrest and seat, propped the swing frame between 2 sawhorses, and stood there, 4 hands on hips, sawdust in hair, admiring a shape that could now be identified by a child. The hardest parts had become the simple ones now that they were together. "Eat," Ray decided. Inside the house, he made 2 sandwiches, heavy with tomato and Duke's mayo, and slid a jar of pickles across the table that had held 100 meals and 27 bills and one daughter's algebra homework for 6 months straight. He set down sweet tea in mason jars and watched the boy attempt to drink it like he was trying to impress someone. Tyler grimaced at the sugar and then, as all outsiders do, decided he liked it. "What'd you do at 19?" Tyler asked, mouthful. "At 19, Ray said, I was learning to keep a circular saw from bucking me through the shop door, and I was saving money for a truck with a transmission that respected me." "You knew you wanted to build stuff?" "I knew I wanted to make things that stayed," Ray said. He wiped a smear of tomato from his thumb. "Sometimes that's a roof, sometimes that's a habit." Tyler nodded like he'd file that away and pull it out later when it sounded better in his own voice. He tapped his phone, then stopped himself and slid its screen down on the table. "What about me? I don't know yet," he said. "Business degree maybe, or content creation, which is a real job, I swear. Or something with my hands, but not sure my mom sees that as, respectable," Ray supplied. "Yeah." Ray thought of Lila then, his wife, who'd been gone 7 years but still managed to show up when advice was required. She had believed in order and laughter and lists written in cursive and exactly 3 good throws for every kitchen towel. She had also believed that people ought to be judged by the way they treat time and tools. "What does your day feel like when you get it right?" Ray asked. Tyler blinked. "What do you mean?" "End of a good day," Ray said. "What's in your hands? What's sore? What's loud? What's quiet?" Tyler stared out the window toward the workshop, toward the swing shape starting to be a swing. "My hands are dirty," he said finally. "My ears are ringing, but in a good way. My head is tired, but not. There's a thing in front of me that wasn't there that morning." Ray nodded. "There's your clue." They cleaned up, then loaded the frame and parts into Ray's truck to drive into town for hardware and chain. The road into Harris ran straight through soybeans and then dipped under a tunnel of oak limbs, Spanish moss hanging like slow fireworks. The tires found every familiar bump. Ray's elbow went to its spot in the open window, the air blew warm and honest. They passed the feed store +1, a vape store with a neon sign in the shape of a strawberry that made Ray feel like he'd missed an episode of The World. At the hardware store, Ray got nods and the kind of questions that were really greetings. "You working or just pretending? You need any more of those deck screws from last summer? We got a deal." Tyler trailed behind with a cart, filming small moments when he thought Ray wasn't looking. Hand to a bin of bolts, the way Ray chose chain like he was picking out a tie. On the way back, Ray turned at the last second and took the road that skirted Shiloh Church. He parked under the big pecan and sat a minute. Tyler opened his mouth, closed it, then followed him across the grass without asking what they were doing. Ray paused at a headstone he knew better than his own address. He rubbed the moss off the name enough times that it stayed clean now, like even the earth wanted to remember and clear its throat. "Hey," he said, quiet. "Building a swing, honey, the kind you always said we'd sit on and judge the neighbors from." Tyler pretended interest in a bee struggling with an oversized clover, and Ray let the silence be what it was, not empty exactly, full of the words that had been said and all the ones that wouldn't be. Back at the shop, the afternoon settled in and decided to be hot. The cicadas went from warm-up to performance. Sweat darkened the collar on Ray's shirt. Tyler's cap developed a fan of salt. They mounted the eye bolts, threaded chain, and checked the hang by feel. Ray taught Tyler how to find the sweet spot, where a swing stopped wanting to complain and started wanting to move. They sat on the frame together, two men at two ends of a new thing, and let it hold them. "Okay," Tyler said, "this is legit." "Technical terms," Ray said. He dug the toes of his boots into the slab and pushed a fraction. The swing started its small sentence, forward, back, a gentle comma of motion. Tyler set his phone up again. "One shot of us sitting on it," he said. "Hands only, old school mystery." Ray snorted. "You're obsessed." "Maybe," Tyler said, and for the first time that day, the word sounded less like brag and more like confession. "It's the only way I know how to say, look, this is good." Ray watched the boy's face then, the focus, the hope, the way his hands were still and sure when they held something that might matter. "You don't have to announce good," he said. "You just have to do it enough times, people trip over it." Tyler grinned. "I'm going to stitch that on a pillow." "You do, and I'll burn the pillow." They laughed and stood and got back to work. By 5, the swing was slatted and smooth, the chain adjusted so it didn't argue. They loaded it into the truck bed and drove 3 streets over to Mrs. Landry's place, where the porch had been empty and therefore wrong since Mr. Landry passed. She'd asked for something to fill the air where the quiet got too big. Ray had nodded and known exactly. They mounted the lag screws into the beam with the slow, steady insistence of men who didn't plan to come back to fix a mistake. Tyler checked the level with ceremony. It hit the line. Mrs. Landry cried, then laughed at herself for crying, then sat and swung, her feet not reaching the boards the way they used to. The sound it made was small and perfect. "You boys eat yet?" she asked, because some sentences were woven into the town's dictionary. Ray shook his head. "We will." "You take biscuits," she said, getting up painfully. "I got 5 I was saving, and I don't know what for." They stayed for 1 biscuit each and 10 minutes of a story about a cousin who'd tried to sell her a vacuum. Then they left the swing doing its job behind them. The truck felt lighter and heavier both. Evening stretched itself long. Back at the house, they put tools where tools sleep and swept the floor into the tidy mountain Ray insisted on, which he'd carry to the compost pile after it cooled. The radio found a baseball game, the announcer's voice a river that never needed to hurry. Ray handed Tyler a cold bottle from the garage fridge and leaned on the shop door jamb like you lean on the end of a good day. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll talk about mortise and tenon." "Sounds like a law firm," Tyler said. "It's how a chair holds a man," Ray answered, "or doesn't." Tyler nodded, drank, then hesitated. "About the page," he said, meaning the thing on the phone. I'll edit the clips, keep it about the work. I'll put your number in the bio. Folks can call if they want a swing or shelves or whatever you make. Whatever needs making, Ray said. Right. Tyler shouldered his backpack and stuck out his hand in a gesture too old for his hat. Ray shook it. Sawdust fell from both of them like confetti from a parade that had earned the right to be small. You're good at this, Tyler said, stepping back. I mean, the teaching, not just the building. Ray shrugged. Compliments sat awkwardly on him, like jackets borrowed from men who ate more. Somebody taught me, he said, but be ugly not to pass that along. Tyler headed to his car, then turned. Hey, he called. What should I title the video? Well, call it what it is, he said, building a swing. Tyler laughed and gave him a thumbs up that was somehow not infuriating. The sedan backed up, corrected, and left without taking any of the ditch with it. Small progress, Ray thought. He shut the shop and walked the yard a minute just to make sure the world still fit. Across the field, a neighbor's yard light blinked on. Far off, the train announced itself to people who didn't live close enough to care. He felt the day settle inside him the way a board settles on a frame when you've driven the last screw and the structure decides to believe in itself. Inside the house, he cooked a skillet of something simple and sat at the little table with the radio's ball game turning into a post game that sounded exactly like every other post game that ever had and ever would. He ate all of it and then a little more and left his plate in the sink with the decency to soak. On the porch again, the heat finally let go. Fireflies took turns being obvious. He picked up his phone and saw a message from Tyler. Posted, got 300 likes in 10 minutes. Comments from people asking if you do custom. A link he did not press. A second message. You were right, kept it about the wood. A photo came through anyway. The swing, just the swing, hanging from the porch beam, empty and waiting, the chain gleaming like it had ideas. Ray set down the phone. He could feel the hum still in him, that spark that woke with him and traveled the length of the day without asking permission. It wasn't glory, it wasn't ego, it was heat with a job. He thought of morning, the coffee, the line of copper over the pines, the rooster lying to whoever believed him. He thought of a boy who didn't yet know what kind of man he wanted to be, and of a town that still knew how to ask if you'd eaten. He thought of a swing and of a name on a stone, and of the way a pencil mark on wood became a cut, became a joint, became something that could hold with grace the weight of a person resting. He smiled, small, to no one. Tomorrow would want its share. He would rise, he would put on the hat, he would walk to the shop and touch the tools and listen for what the wood said first. He would show up in the shape of work until the light turns itself down. From the road, a late truck rattled by, and then the town was quiet. He stood in the dim and breathed the cool night air like a man drinking from a spring he hadn't yet emptied. Plenty left, he said to the dark, but not as a promise or a boast, but as an inventory. He went inside, set his alarm for a time the sun found unreasonable, and laid down with his hands still smelling faintly of pine. The end. Thank you for listening to Now and Then Stories with Violet. If this story spoke to you, I hope you'll stay a while. There are always more moments waiting to be found between now and then.